is if you want to say something, please raise your hands. I'd like Adeyemi to work with me. So if you can hear me, you don't need to ask for permission, Adeyemi. Just signify that you can still hear me, just to be sure that you can still hear me. So Adeyemi, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right then. Thank you. Okay, so let's just kick off by 6:05. Let's wait for 3 more minutes if you don't mind. Thank you very much. All right, so let's kick off. So good evening, guys. Once again, thank you so much for joining in both yesterday and today. So we're going to be picking off right where we left off from yesterday's class. And yesterday, can Paul tell us what we learned yesterday? Paul was in yesterday's class. Can you quickly take a few seconds to just tell us what we did in yesterday's class?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Paul. I can hear you. Go on, please.
Okay, I was in yesterday's class, but my network was really bad, so I couldn't really pick most things. So I just picked the beginning, the introduction to Power BI. That was what I was able to pick throughout the class. I was not even hearing what you were saying. So my network was really, really bad yesterday.
Oh, sorry about that, Paul. Okay. Um, okay, let me call someone else. Opeyemi, I think Opeyemi was quite active yesterday. Opeyemi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
All right, good evening. Opeyemi, what did we, can you just give us a quick recap of what we did yesterday?
Okay, we started. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, we started with the importance of visualization, where we were introduced to
Okay.
different types of visualization and their uses, appropriate uses, and we were also advised to learn a thing about color blending. And afterwards, we went into the business of the day, which was Power BI. You took your time to explain to us the environment, talked about the ribbons, talked about the pages, and then talked about how to import data from different sources, including SQL Server. Then we looked at the interface, we looked at the different types of views, we looked at the um, table view, report view, and the other one on the left tab. I don't remember now. Then went to the right tab. We looked at the panes that we have, looked at the visualization pane there. I think. Then we looked before we imported the pharmaceutical data sets we wanted to use. Then we brought it in, or we loaded it, and we were taken to the Power BI's Power Query, where we were checking columns one after the other. Then eventually we decided the types of data that it was loaded in. Then we emphasized on automation in Power BI when we were preparing the layouts, the design layouts, or the report layouts. For instance, when you taught us how to um, do automation. Then after that, we were introduced to colors, different types of color. We can use the HEX value. I don't know if I'm correct, to get colors. And after that, we checked what's the difference between wallpaper and canvas background colors. Practiced that, and we pretty much created a kind of layout that was supposed to be using. And that was very rounded up. That's so much I can tell for now. Thank you, sir.
If you could see me now, you would see me giving you a round of applause from where I'm sitting. So thank you very much for that. That's a very, very detailed feedback. Um, so thank you very much for that, Okoyemi. So just to clarify again, as you can see now, this is what Power BI looks like when I'm opening it, and we are just going to pick up. You can see recent, and this is the file that I saved yesterday, the PBIX file. Power BI reports are stored in the PBIX format. So I'm just going to click on this and open it again. So I'm going to wait for Power BI to load the report that we are building. Just like Okoyemi said yesterday, we were able to explore the Power BI interface. And most importantly, I think what we achieved yesterday was loading in the data set to be working with and creating a framework, a sort of layout for the final results that we hope to achieve. Okay, then, so you can see somebody's raising their hands. Prince, you're raising your hands. If you want to say something, please unmute yourself.
All right, yes. So good evening, Delani.
Good
Yes,
evening.
yesterday's video, I didn't see it, no email. I don't know what happened.
Oh,
That's
the
yesterday's
YouTube video,
recording.
the recording has been live since yesterday.
It's not in the classroom.
Oh, okay. Do you follow myDataClique on YouTube? I think it would be preferable to just follow and subscribe so you get notifications whenever a new video pops up. That way it is safer.
Oh, okay. Because we do normally receive email. But anyway, no problem. Like I said, I'll just go to my data click page on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So I'll take that to heart, and tonight when the recording is ready, I'll send the video to the group myself.
All right. Thanks.
Oh, okay. You're welcome. All right. So whenever you talk, I'd like you to just drop your hands when you're done speaking. Just okay. Thank you. Now, basically, we continued with this yesterday, and we are going to pick up from where we left off. Now, I gave us some questions that we're going to be answering in today's class. I said, when you want to visualize, you are visualizing not just for, some of us, we like aesthetics, we like seeing nice visuals and all of that. As much as all of these matter, your report, or should I say your dashboard, must solve problems. You must be answering questions. And I just want to say this. I believe this is already a good practice that we have imbibed from. Are we still together, please? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Now, this is a good practice that we have already imbibed from the Excel classes, that whenever you visualize, there should be pages that are, or should I say a page that is dedicated to sharing your insights and your recommendation. If I asked anybody here what data analysis is, you would not define it completely without telling me that it is the process of maybe collecting, cleaning, transforming, and visualizing data with the aim of driving or making data-driven decisions. What will bring us to the decision-making point is that you provide insights and recommendations. So just a best practice tip, your visualization process is not complete until you share insights and recommendations. Is that clear? So the first thing we're going to be doing is to go straight to the questions. I hope Oluwadamilola is on this call. She was very active yesterday. So I said we're going to try to find some KPIs, the total sales, the total quantity. So basically, yesterday we looked at some of these visuals, and if we're going to do this in Excel, I will say, okay, total sum of sales. So we're going to look for the relevant column that we are working with from the data pane. And the question is to find the total sales. Now, mind you, you see this summation sign that looks like an E. This will let you to know which columns are numeric and which columns are not. What you guys would call facts and dimensions. So basically, I'm just going to click on the sales, and you see that a visual pops up here, automatically summing up the sales. So we're going to be doing quite a significant amount of formatting on the visuals. And like I said yesterday, in making reports, automation is very, very important so that you don't have to repeat similar processes again. So the first KPI that we're going to try to visualize is to find the total sales. Now, for this, anytime you want to visualize your key performance indicators, you can use either the card visual, the KPI visual, and the multi-row card. So I'm going to try to click on this and show us some differences between these visuals. Now, as for the card visual will only give you one call-out value. That is, you can only use it on one column. If I try to click on another column now, maybe say quantity, it's not going to work. I'm trying to click on quantity now. It's not going to pick it up because I've already selected a sales column and the card can only pick up one of these columns. Followed by the multi-row, sorry, the multi-row card. Now, basically, the multi-row card is very similar to the card that I chose earlier. Sorry about that. But unlike the card, the multi-row card, just like its name depicts, can pick up more than one field, more than one column at the same time. So as you can see here, I have both quantity and sales picked up simultaneously using the multi-row card. As you can see here, I'm still trying to explain the differences between these KPI visuals. Then we have the KPI itself. We have the KPI itself. So basically, the KPI can also pick multiple values. The KPI can also pick multiple values, but it requires a lot more formatting than the others. So as we go on in the case of what we are learning, we are going to be exploring some of these visuals properly. But for the sake of what we want to achieve in this visualization pane, I'm going to just use the card. Now, whenever you select a visual to reflect values in a column, or you can, like I said yesterday, we have these three panes, these three icons here in the visualization pane. We have the pane that allows you to select your visual, and we have the pane that allows you to format your visual. So basically, we're going to go ahead and try to format this visual. So this 12 billion that we see here is what is called the call out value. While what is underneath here is what is called the category label. You can turn the category label on or off, and you can also format it. You can format the font, you can format the font size, you can make it bold, make it italic. Basically, this is just trying to give us the features of a word editor. But for the sake of this visualization, I'm going to turn off the category label, and then my main focus is on the callout value itself. Now, here, if I want to change the font size, the font type and the font size, I can see here, this DIM, this is where you can select the font size. Power BI has a few font types that you can select from. Mind you, one of the practices that we should imbibe in our visualizations is consistency. If you're using a particular font type from the start, that is what you should end with. That is part of one of the things that make your visualization not just pleasant to look upon, but also very professional. So I'm going to select the triplicate font size, and you can see that that has changed. Now, do I want to make it bold? I can do that here, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to maintain what and from here, you see, you can make adjustments to the size of the font itself. Most importantly, you can change the color. Now, look at this visual. If I move it up until where we want to place these KPIs, you see that we need to make some adjustments in the size because it doesn't fit into the KPI layouts. So you see these edges round about this, I can use them to make adjustments and fit it in. But we still have the white background, which I want to take out. I want to take it out. So all I need for this is just the number. So I'm going to come back here, and under the format, we have visual and then we have general. You can see both tabs here. So I'm just going to go ahead and say general. So now this brings me to check other properties of the visual that I have highlighted, the visual that I'm working on. Here you can check the height and the width. You have properties, you have positioning, you can adjust the position of the visual. Now, what do I want to come and do here? First thing that I want to come and do here is to add a title. Don't forget, I turned off the category label. Why? Because the category label is not editable. I can't edit this now. It will just pop up based on whatever action it has performed on the selected column. So I want to use a title to be able to say, okay, this is the total sales. So the first thing I'll do is to turn on the title and then select the drop down beside the title. Then I will go on to say total sales. Now you can see that as I'm typing, the change is reflecting. Now, one thing that I like about formatting visuals in Power BI is that it does allow you to format to your taste. Now, these total sales, you can decide to change the font type. We have a few editing options here that we can select from. We can change the font type just like before. I'm going to be consistent with my fonts and I'm just going to use the Trebuchet font. You can reduce the size and say maybe 12 or go 13. You can decide to make it bold. You see other font size, we have italic, you can underline as well. Though most times we don't do any of these things, but I'm saying it for the sake of knowledge. Now, you can also change the color of your fonts. You can change the color of your font, but I'm going to be sticking to the black fonts to keep it consistent with the call out value itself. I hope we're still together. Adeyemi, please, if you can still hear me, can you just signify?
Yes, very well.
Oh, okay. Prince, I hope you're still with me. I hope you're not lost. Is Prince still on the call? Oh, Prince is not on the call. Olodamilala, can you still hear me?
Hello, good afternoon. Good evening, I mean.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Although I just came back from somewhere. Sorry, I was not here before.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, no problem. Now, for the title, you can also decide to add a background color for your title. Now, the background color of the title can be made to be different from the actual card color itself, but I'm not going to. Most importantly, you can also change the alignment of your title. As you can see, it is presently aligned to the left, but if I want to make a change, you see we have, just like in Microsoft Word, we have the left alignment, the center alignment, and the right alignment. Now, whatever settings you apply to your first visual or your first KPI, like I said before, consistency, that is what should also be applied to the other KPIs. So I'm going to say, I'm going to keep the alignment to the center and I'm going to leave the title. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to take off this white background. All I want is the values. So I'm going to click on effects. I'm going to click on effects. You can see that there's a white background turned on here. There's a white background turned on. I can decide to increase the transparency and make the color sort of fade out. As you can see, if I click on this now, you see that, you see the way it is. Or I can decide to take out the background completely by turning it off. So, Adeyemi, which of these should we do? Should we keep the faded background or just keep the numbers? Which do you think looks visually appealing and more readable? Can Adeyemi hear me?
All right, we could include an accent bar to differentiate it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now, after the background, you can also add a border. You can add a border. Now, basically, what does the border do? The border just creates a sort of edge around the border creates a sort of edge around the KPI. Now, let me try to turn on a border and okay. Now you see that there's a border around this card now because I turned on the visual border. These are the effects that Power BI allows you to make to some of your visuals. I turned on the visual border, and you can even set the roundedness of the edge of the border. Now, look at how rectangular this looks. Let me increase the roundedness of the border so you see what I mean. Now, visual border, rounded corners, and I'm just going to make this say 8. Now, can you see that there's a difference in the way this looks? So I'm just going to adjust this and then reduce the size as well. Okay. Now, another thing that we will do here is that we are going to, another thing that we're going to try to do here is that we are now going to format the callout value itself. Now, when you check the callout value, aside from the font type, the font size, and every other editing app, you can also edit the display unit. I'll tell you what I mean by the display unit. Now, a number can be displayed in trillions, billions, millions, thousands, etc. Most times is always the display unit settings is always on auto. That is for Power BI to detect the best numerical value to display the selected column in. But what I'm going to try to do here is that I'm just going to leave it at automatic. If I change this to millions now, you will see that this will change using the million scale. If I change it to billions, it goes back to billions. But if I go automatic, Power BI will automatically detect what numerical value should be used to display the selected column. Now, we have the value decimal place. Most times, Power BI will automatically just round off. If I decide to increase this now from auto, and I say 1 decimal place, we see that the value changes to 11.8 billion. If I say 2 decimal places, you see the value changes to 11.80 billion. Now, most times, because this total sales is currency based, we are going to leave it using 2 decimal places, like most currencies would normally have. That's why we're going to leave this in 2 decimal places. Now, yesterday, I remember when we were on Power Query, when we were talking about the things we needed to change using Power Query on these columns, Prince called our attention to the fact that, I don't know if it was Prince or Opeyemi that said, the sales column, the sales and price column should be changed to currency. And we figured that this data was collected in 2 European countries, Germany and Poland. So that means if we are going to use a currency, we are going to use the euros currency. So now to do that, we can do that here. We'll click on the sales column and it will bring out the column tools right above here. As you can see, column tools. Here you are allowed to change the name of a column. You are allowed to change the data type of a column. and you are allowed to change the display value of the columns. So this is where we are going to insert the euros currency from. So I'm just going to click on the drop down beside the dollar sign and say euros. And from there, we are just going to try to expand this. There we go. So we have the first KPI. I think this color value is too large. I'm just going to try to reduce it and go for 35 instead. All right. Now, the next thing we are going to try to do is to find the total quantity. Don't forget, I spoke about automation. Instead of repeating the same process all over again and trying to edit and format using the total quantity, basically, you can just duplicate this. Can someone from yesterday's class remind me how I said we duplicate visuals or elements in Power BI? If I wanted to duplicate this now, what do I do? If you'd like to speak, please go ahead and say something.
You just copy and paste.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Winnie. So I'm just going to Control C and then Control V. And then I move this to the side. Now, what did I call these red lines yesterday?
Alignment lines.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Just to ensure that you're keeping your objects and the elements of your visualizations in check. So I'm going to call this. Now, we want to find the total quantity sold. All I have to do now is to uncheck the sales column that I selected before and select quantity instead. Now, something is still wrong with this visual. Can somebody tell me what is wrong with this?
The labeling of
We already
the
have,
card.
thank you. Okay, so what is the labeling? What is supposed to be here then? So we're supposed to have total quantity here. So from here, if I wanted to change this title, Prince, how do I change the title? Just to be sure we are still together. Just to be sure we get it. Prince, if you're still there, if I wanted to change the title of this card now, what do I do? If Prince is not there, can Opeyemi go ahead and tell us what we are supposed to do to change the title?
Okay, we click selected, then we go to our visualizations pane, clicking on the
Okay.
second, yes, that's. Then we go to general place.
Okay.
And when we get the title, and it is from the title.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. Now, you can write this in two ways. You can go total or go in full. Now, whenever you are building a dashboard, particularly one of the things that has to be your priority is, will this dashboard, will this report, will this page be understandable? So you have to build it with the user experience in mind. You don't want to send a dashboard out and you are getting, I don't understand this. What were you trying to do here? What is this supposed to mean? Sort of feedback. So part of the things you have to consider when is clarity on the end of the stakeholder or on the end of whoever you're making or building the report for. So I'm going to change this to total quantity. And I think there are two other questions. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this for the third KPI. Can somebody help me with the third question for the KPI? Third question. I gave 4 questions for the KPI yesterday. Is Oluwadamilala there? I think you're the one who helped us with the questions yesterday.
Hello?
Total number of cities.
Okay, total number of cities. Okay, so now to do that, I'm going to uncheck quantity and then select city. Now, instead of giving me a total sum of cities, is giving me the first city. To change that, I'm going to come back to the visualization selection pane, and you see where we have the fields drop down here. I'm going to click on the drop down and change it to a distinct count. Now, do you remember using distinct counts in Excel, such as that you had to add data to model to be able to use distinct counts? Here, we can just go ahead and now if you decided to count, the counts will count repeatedly, everything, but we want the total number of cities, and that means we want a distinct count of the cities. So I'm going to use count distinct. So we have 749 different cities. The title is still wrong, so I'm just going to repeat the same process of changing the name of the title and say okay. Then what's going to be the next question? The next visual type, please. Anybody there?
Total sub-channels.
Okay, total sub-channels. So that means for this, we are going to be using the sub-channel column. Okay. Now you see this is also giving me, now most times whenever you try to use cards and the column contains text and you try to use cards, what is majorly going to give you is the first value in that column. You are the one that's going to have to come to the fields pane and say, okay, what I want is a count or a distinct count of the values in this column. So we have 4 sub-channels. I'm going to change the title like I did before and say total sub-channels. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. Now, just like personally, I like to take time when I'm building my visuals because just like building a house, most times it doesn't make sense when you're still at foundation stage. But when you start to piece and put everything together, then it starts to make more sense as you continue to go. It makes more sense as you go. It makes more sense as you go. So now, yesterday, somebody asked questions with regards to icons. Somebody asked questions with regards to icons. Still stay with me. We are still trying to piece this together. Now, if you notice, while building this, I left a space to the left-hand side here. That's because this is the space where we are going to be inputting the title of this dashboard and also inserting relevant icons for navigation's sake. So now I'm going to show you how we insert icons into Power BI. Yesterday, when I wanted to insert a shape, the shapes that I used for the backgrounds, I came here. But if you notice here, we don't have icons that we have in Excel. When you use Excel, you had some icons, but here we only have text box, buttons, shapes, and images. So today I'm going to be introducing us to some external sites that I use for icons and for color codes in when I want to build dashboards. I hope we're still together. I hope you can still hear me. All right, thank you, Usman. All right, Adeyemi, thank you. I got that. Okay, so Oluwadamilola, your hand is up. Do you want to say something?
No, it was a mistake.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I'm going to try to share with us another window. Okay. Can you see my screen? Can you see what I'm sharing now?
Yes, please. Yes, you can see it.
Okay, good. Now, for color selection, for color blending, I use a site called Coolors, coolors.co, coolors.co. Now, Coolors is a site that allows you to generate and combine different color palettes. Don't forget yesterday when I was talking, I said as a data analyst, you are a generalist. You have to, because of the things you'll be doing, you need knowledge of design, you need knowledge of numbers and all of that, just to ensure that you are growing adequately. Now, in Coolors, you are able to go through various color palettes. All you have to do is press the space bar on your laptop and it will refresh the color palettes for you. So when I click on space, it will refresh the color palettes. If I see a color that I like from the colors it brings out, I will lock that color. Can you see this padlock? I will lock that color. So that means whenever Coolors refreshes, whenever I refresh by hitting the space bar, the color that I locked will remain. See, I just locked this Oxford blue color. Now I can, if I hit the space bar, you see every other palette changed except the one that I locked. So basically, if I wanted to copy this color, all I have to do is, you see this icon here that says copy X. Then I'll be able to copy the X code of the color and go and use it in my Power BI. Are we still together? If I want to add this color now to my favorite colors, to save this color, all I have to do is click on this love icon, and then it will ask me to sign in to my Google account. So now, let's say I'm trying to look for shades of blue to combine. I'm going to keep on refreshing this, hitting the space bar, refreshing. Okay. Do I like this blue? Do I think it goes well? I think I like this. I will lock this palette as well. Adeyemi, do you want to say something?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. Now, I have two shades of blue that I like. I can continue going. Coolors will allow you to lock as much as 5 color palettes. So this is a very important tool for, I've seen another shade of blue that I like. I will lock it. Rather than stressing yourself trying to think of color blending and color combination, you can always come here to get color codes and use them in your visualization. So just for the sake of knowledge, I'm going to try to get 5 different shades of blue and lock them here. So I'll just keep on refreshing till I get what it is that I want. So for those who are taking notes, you can just take note of the site. It is coolors.co. The address to the site is coolors.co. Sometimes finding the color palette that you want, particularly the last 2 colors, can take a while. But trust me, it's just going to keep on going till you see what it is that you like. Now, if you don't want to do all of this, you can always click on this and it will ask you to sign in, then you can explore already saved palette. Like they already have some palettes based on some colors. Instead of having to select color shades yourself, there are already palettes of blue, of green, and thereabouts. So let me just try to sign in to save us that stress. So you can see it's trying to sign in using my Google account. Once that process is completed, now, can you see they are already pre-saved palettes? This is a palette shades of blue now. If I click on this, rather than trying to find shades of blue myself, I have a template for already saved blue palettes. So this is very useful when your reports, when your dashboard, your visuals are still in the foundational stage. Now, this is the first tool, which is Coolers. I'm going to try to show us the second tool, which is for icon selection. Now, there are two sites that I go to get icons. The first site is called flaticon.com. As you can see here, flaticon.com. Now, flat icons, as you can see, I just signed in my Google account. There are different arrays of icons that you can download from. All you need to do is come here and search for, let me go now and say pharmacy, since we are working with a pharmacy. And it is going to give me a list of pharmaceutical icons that I can download from. So if you see an icon that you like, okay, is there an icon here that makes sense? All right, so let me just select this icon here. I'm going to select one of these icons. All right, it's going to give you the icon in PNG format. You can download it as a PNG. You see edit icon right up here. This edit icon, when you click on it, you can now go ahead to choose to set the icon color, the color of the icon that you want to work with. If I say choose a new color, I'm allowed to change the color to whatever color I want. Can you see that when I selected a color, the color of the icon is changing? I'm just going to leave it at black though, for the sake of it. I'm going to leave the icon as black. Now, if I have selected the preferred color, then I can click on download. Whenever you want to download, ensure that you click on the 512 pixels. That will determine the quality of the icon you're about to download. So if I click on 512, I'm going to then click on free download. Then the icon is going to download into my local browser. Did you get that? Please, I'd like somebody to respond if you got that so I can proceed.
Yes, sir, we got that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, thank you. Aside flat icons, another site that I go to download icons is icons8.com. Icons8.com. So let me just copy some of these sites so I'll send these sites to the group later for those of us who want to explore it. But for anyone who is actively working on their laptops as I am now, the first site we visited was coolers.co. The second site, and coolers is for color palettes. The second site, flaticon.com. The third site, icons8.com. Now, just like flat icon, icons 8 also has an array of icons. I'm going to go ahead and search pharmacy here as well. Then press search. Now, icons 8 will give me a list of pharmaceutical icons that they have. Now, I'm not going to say one is better or one is not good. Just based on, there are some times where icons 8 might have the icon you're looking for, and flat icons might not exactly have what exactly it is you are looking for. So, okay, this has already, so I'm just going to press download. Now, for this, don't forget we're trying to download it in PNG format. I'm going to select a new ratio. Just so I watch this ratio is just determine the size of the icon. So I'll press a new ratio. You see the ratios that are free to download. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the ratio that I want to download from here. Let me just repeat that process. I will uncheck this. Then I'll download the ratio that is free to download. I'll click on download. And it's going to download as a local picture. Now, we are going to be downloading a few icons. We're going to be downloading an icon for sales, an icon for quantity, for cities, and we're going to try to find an icon for channels as well. So we're going to be using flat icons for this. Mind you, we want to place these icons besides our KPIs. And when we get back to Power BI, it will make a lot more sense. So just like we would say, let's just trust the process. So I'm going to try to search for an icon for sales, an icon for sales, and okay, let me download, let me get this. I think I like this. Okay, so I'm just going to download it, free download. Okay, so that has downloaded. Next, we are going to try to download for quantity as well. For quantity, and I'm going to try to look for an icon that suits quantity here. Okay, so I think I like this, but let me check if I can edit the color of the icon itself. So if the color is not editable, I'll just go back and try to get an icon. Okay, let me use this instead. Now, the reason why I'm downloading black is because the color that I want to use is black. I already set the text for my KPIs to black, so I want to keep the consistency. If I wanted to change the color, I would have just clicked on edit icon and I would have changed the color from choose a new color. So for quantity, I'm going to find for city as well. Okay, I think I like this. So I'll download this as well. Okay, so and then we have one for sub-channel. So let me see if they have anything that suits sub-channel here. Okay, they don't have anything for sub-channel, so let me just try to work with channel and see if they will give me something that is okay. Let me try to use a medium. Okay. So I'm just going to try to download this icon here because I think this just suits the purpose of what I want to do. Then we say free download. Okay, good. So let's go back to Power BI. So you see that whenever you see dashboards that look real good, a lot of work have gone into the development of these dashboards. So now the first thing that we are going to try to do is I'm going to now show you what we aim to achieve with these icons. And that's firstly to bring in these icons. We downloaded them as images. So we're going to come to insert and then click on image. So now from your laptop, you're going to bring in each and every one of these icons, one after the other. You're going to bring in these icons. What I just did here is that I reduced the size so that it will be usable, so that I can use it for my dashboard. So I'm going to come here. So I'm going to try to keep the icon right next to the numbers themselves. So I'll drag this down. For the sales, I'll increase this. And keep it right next to it. I'm going to repeat the same process for the quantity as well. I'm going to bring in for, okay, good. I'm just trying to make adjustments to ensure that the icons fit in right where I want them to be. Then for the total number of cities as well, I'm going to bring in the icon that was downloaded for the city. Adjust the size. Drop it right next. Can you see the alignment line is trying to let me know, okay, this is in order with the rest as well, or this is out of order. Lastly, I'm going to bring in the icon for the sub-channels. Is anybody confused? Are we still together?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to try to do is to insert the title. We are still laying out this. So we go ahead. To insert the title, we use a text box. Now, you can adjust the size of the text box just like any other element. And we're going to call this a pharmaceutical report. So I'm going to now make changes. I will highlight the text. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the alignment. You can change the alignment. You see, Power BI is giving you option to change the font. You have an option to change the font. This is the font I use for the KPIs, the Trebuchet font. So I'm still going to use that. I can also change the font size. I can increase the font size. I can change the color of the font here. All I need to do is ensure the text is highlighted, change the color of the font, but I'm going to keep it on black. I can decide to make it bold, make it italic, or underline it, just like the regular text editor. Now that I have what I need here, I'm going to bring this right up here. Now, do you notice something here? Do you see that the text box has its own background? And I don't want that. So to format that, I'm going to click on the text box, and you can see that where we used to format visuals has now changed to format text box. So I'm going to go ahead and come to effects and turn off the background from here. So I can have pharmaceutical reports right on here. Now, don't forget, we also downloaded an icon for pharmacy. I'm just going to bring that right in as well and place that right next to this. Okay. Our work is not yet done, but for now, we have a good start to. Now, let's go into visualization proper. The first question that I gave out yesterday was that we are going to try to find the channels by quantity and price. Or was that not the first question I gave out? Oluwadamila, are you there? If Damilola is not there, please, Usman, can you help me out with that? The first question that I said we are going to be answering yesterday.
You said channels by quantity and price.
All right. So let's start to visualize. Now for this, we are going to be needing I'm just going to click on, so we're going to be working with 3 columns: the channels, the channel column, the quantity column, and then the price column. Are we still together? Now this will appear in a table because all I have done is that I've just selected. I have not chosen the visual type that I want to use. So for this, we are going to be making use of the column chart. I'm going to firstly begin by expanding this to fit into the layout that was designed yesterday. Now, the essence of the layout is to make your work easy. When you've done the layout, you already know where to place what. You already know where to place what. Now, we have the sum of quantity and sum of price by channels, but we want to format. We want to make formats to this. Number one, we want to format to the colors we have been working with, which is this shade of green and the lighter shade of green right above here. So these are the colors we want to use in our selection. Earlier, I spoke about color consistency. So I'm just going to go ahead and while selecting the visual, say format your visual. Now, some of us call visuals, we call them graphs, particularly when you're working with bar charts. You see that we have in the format, we have the x-axis and the y-axis. Just a quick test of knowledge. Can somebody tell me from this visual, where is the x-axis and where is the y-axis?
The x-axis has the names of the pharmacy and the hospital, while the y-axis is with the price and the quantity.
Oh, okay. So from what Prince just said, the y-axis is vertical, while the x-axis is horizontal. Abi?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we can see here that when we come to format visual, Under visual, we have x-axis, y-axis. Now, what you will see when you get to format visual is determined by the visual type that you select. You will see that if we maybe try to work with another type of chart that is not a bar chart, we might not see x-axis or y-axis. We might see something else. So what you see when you get to format visual is determined by the type of chart, or should I say the type of visual that you select to work with. So now, what are the changes that I want to make here? First things first, I want to turn off, on the x-axis, you will see values, title, and layout. If I turn off the values for the x-axis, can you see that the labeling for pharmacy and hospital goes off? I don't want to lose that. You can still go ahead to make changes to this. You can change the font type. You can reduce or increase the font size. You can decide to make it bold. You can decide to also change the color if you deem fit. Now, the title. Can you see that there is channel appearing underneath? Now, one of the things that you want to do when you're making a visual is that you want to maximize the space. So you don't want too many elements in that visual, particularly if another element can already do what the other is doing. And I believe that if we have a good title, we don't need a subtitle again. So I'm going to be taking off the title for the x-axis. I'm going to be taking off the title for the x-axis. Now for the y-axis, which Prince told us before, that is the vertical axis, we have the range. Why do we have range here and we don't have it here? The reason why we have range here is because the y-axis is the one that is dealing with numerical values. The y is the one that is dealing with the numerical values. So as you guessed, I'm going to be taking out the title. The title is where it's showing sum of quantity and sum of price. Our title will do justice to these subtitles that I am taking out. And then we have values. The values are where we are seeing 60 million, 40 million, 20 million, and 0 million on this pane. So I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments as well, change the font size and the font type as well. Are we still together?
Yes.
Now, from here, you can set the display value. If you don't want it to be in thousands, if you don't want it to be in millions, I want to change it to thousands. You see, when I changed it to thousands, the values changed. If I go ahead and change it to billions, the values will change as well. But most times, Power BI would already automatically depict the best numerical units to display this label in. So I'm going to drop that off. Now, the next thing that we have here is the legend. The legend is what depicts which bar belongs to which column. As you can see here, we have the legend telling us that the lighter shade of blue is for quantity, is for the sum of quantity, while the darker shade of blue is for the sum of price. You can decide to turn off your legend, which will save us more space. But we are not going to be turning it off because legends help with clarity. When you're looking at the visual, you are able to tell which column is being represented by which bar or by which pie or by which line. You can adjust the position of your legend. As you can see here, there are a few options in the position. I'm going to say top center. You can keep it in the center. You can keep it in bottom center. You can make various adjustments as you deem fit. So for this, I'm going to be leaving the legend at the top center. Don't forget, yesterday when I was talking about positioning of KPIs, I said normally we like to read normally we read from up to down or from left to right. If you do an action in Power BI, you have the undo and redo. We explored that yesterday. So I'm still editing this visual here. So for the KPIs, for the legend, sorry, I've changed the position. Now you can see that we have, let me try to zoom in. If you are zooming, you see that we have grid lines behind this chart. I'm going to take out the grid lines. I'm going to take out the grid lines because I don't want too many elements in my visual. Basically, all I want are my numbers, my charts, and a few other things. So you can see if I zoom in, you won't find the grid lines there again. Okay. Now, I already turned off the grid lines. Then I'm going to turn on the data labels. The data labels are important so that rather than having to check from first glance, we are able to see what value belongs is being represented or is being visualized. So I'm going to turn on the data label, as you can see here, and you can also edit your data labels. Now I'll show you how we can edit the data labels. When you click on the data labels, when you expand the drop down, you would see apply settings to. So whatever change you make, you can say all. If you say to all, it will reflect on both, or you can select a particular one of the columns, say for quantity or for price. Are we still together? Do we understand what I'm doing? Are we still together, guys? Prince, Adeyemi, are you guys there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Are we still
Yes, we
together? Do
can
we
hear you.
understand? Or you want me to clarify something?
For me, it's all right.
Oh, okay. Now, so basically, I'm going to go on to make some formats to the labels. Now, the first thing you can change is the orientation. The orientation. You can change the orientation of the visual of so I'm going to go ahead and say for sum of price. So let me try to make a change here and say, can you see that when I rotated it, the orientation changed? Or I can just make it horizontal, which is the normal way. I can also decide to change the position from here. That is the placement of the labels in the visual. Do I want it to be on the inside end? Inside end, we position it very close to the tip of the chart, of the bar chart. Outside end, we position it outside the chart. Inside center, as you can see, these changes are interactive or inside base. So automatically, Power BI has set the data labels to the top. So that is that. Now for the value, what does the value allow me to do? The value allows me to set the font type for the labels, set the size, and also set the color. Set the color for this. So I'm just going to make this more visible using this. Also from here, if I want to change the display units, like I explained earlier, I can go ahead and change that from here. But I'm going to be keeping it in millions. Do I want to add decimal places? If I want to, I can go ahead and increase the decimal places. Are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on the data labels, now I still want to make some changes in terms of the colors of certain elements on this chart. So I'm going to leave the visual pane and then go across to general. What am I able to do here? Similarly to the KPIs, here I can change my title and change some effects. So let's begin with the title. So for this, the question, your title should be the question you're trying to answer with that visual. So this is channels by quantity and price. API, the font. Don't forget, I've been using a particular trying to maintain consistency. So I'm reducing the font size, making it bold, and then changing the alignment to the center as well. So that is that on the end. Then I want to change from background. Is on. The reason why we are not seeing it is because our layout is white. If I change the color now to maybe, can you see that this is not the visual has its own background? So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to turn the back of the visual itself because I already have the framework acting like a background on its own. Okay, now, so I'm going to just turn off the background. Now, visual border, just like for the KPIs, if I turn on the visual border, it adds border effects to the selected visual. It adds the, just like edges to the selected visual. I'm just going to go back and turn that off just to show us how it works under effects. Whenever you are done with a particular formatting, just collapse the drop down. You can just turn off that. Now, basically, the shadow effect is just for, should I say, aesthetics. It applies a sort of darker shade effect behind the selected visual. So this can be intuition defined, whether to turn it on or to turn it off. And you can set the position for the shadow. Do you want it to be inside the visual itself or do you want it to be outside? The position of where you want it to be as well can be set. Now, we've still not changed the colors to the colors we'll be working with. We've still not changed the color. So we're going to come here. Now, I said that what you see in the visual pane is determined by the kind of visual that you select. We are seeing columns here because this is a column bar chart. Now, we have two types of bar charts. We have the column bar chart, which is the bar chart that is standing vertically. And then we have the row bar chart, which is the column that is horizontally aligned. So the reason why we have columns here is because we are working with a column bar chart. So for this, we want to change the colors of these elements. I have the color codes with me already. So I'm going to be working with the color codes that I sent yesterday. I'm going to make the change from here and say apply settings to. Then I'll select the column that I want to change. Am I changing the quantity column or am I changing the price column? You are going to have to change it one after the other. one after the other. So I'm going to make the quantity is the one that is represented in lighter blue, as the legend says here. So for that, I'm going to be using the X code for the lemon X code from yesterday. I already sent these colors to the group for those who didn't join us yesterday. So I'm going to be using this. Okay. Then if I want to change for the price, I'll come back here, say sum of price, and then select more colors. Then put in the X code that I will be using. Now, can you see that we now have the colors that we want to work with? Do we understand how we got here? If anybody is saying something, please go ahead. Is anybody saying something?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do you understand? Can I proceed?
Yes.
Adeyemi, you're supposed to be the assistant teacher today. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, can somebody help me with the second question, please?
All right. That's the sub channels by quantity and price.
Good. Now, luckily for us, we are still working with similar values, similar columns, still quantity and price. Automation again. This visual, copy it, paste it, bring it to the side. Now, this will be sub-channel, not channel. So uncheck the channel, go ahead and select sub-channel. Can we see that it has maintained we didn't have to go through the stress of having to format again from the start. So this is the essence of, this is why I'm always, encouraging automation in Power BI. It will save you a lot of time. It will save you a lot of time when you are building your visuals. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a change to the title, because this is supposed to be sub-channels by total quantity and price. So this will be sub-channels by total quantity and price. Okay, so then what is our, now, where the main work usually is in laying out your structure and the framework and the initial formatting and all of that. When those parts have become sorted, trust me, it becomes a smoother ride from there, because you've gone through the stress of the color selection, of the layout and all of that. So while this is still a work in progress, now it will start to make more sense as we proceed. Okay, so the next question would then be, we want to find, who's helping me with that, please?
Month by sales
Mhm.
in 2018.
Okay,
Months
months
by
by sales.
2018 sales.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to copy a visual and then paste again. So let's come down here. Okay, so now I'm going to bring that down here. Now, for timely trends, it's always, should I say, a lot better to use line charts, because line charts show trends. That's the, when I was talking about how to select chart types, how to select visuals, from the slide that I shared, if you went through it, you'll see there's a portion there where I spoke about selecting the right chart types. I'm going to be sharing a material on selecting the right chart types later today. For those who were not in yesterday's class, it will be uploaded to the classroom. Please, if I do not remember, Adeyemi just tag me on the group. Now for this, we need months and sales. We need months, sales, and the year 2018. So those are the three columns we'll be working with. We need months. We need months. So I said we are going to be using a line chart. So this is the line chart. I said we need months. We need sales. And then we need year. Okay, good. Now, when we were building our visuals in Excel, we did basic formatting and basic sorting and filtering when we learned Excel. Now, in Power BI, formatting and filtering and sorting is also an essential part of. Now, what do we have to format here? We have to format the year to just be 2018. That is what we need to format, because as we can see here, this visual is showing for all the years for 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. And this is quite clumsy. So now we are going to click on the filters pane. We are going to expand the filters pane, and we will see the visuals, the columns that have been selected. We see the months, we see sum of sales, and we see year. Now, we want to filter to show just year. So we click on this drop down and we'll select just 2018. Are we together? Now that we have selected just 2018, we need to go ahead and make a little bit of formatting on the line chart. Don't forget, I said before, what you will see in the format visual pane is determined by the type of visual that you select. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to expand this. Okay. Now, when I clicked on the format visuals, can you see that where we had columns before, we now have lines. We now have some other formattings that are related to lines. So I'm going to firstly go ahead and click on the lines. Now, the first thing that we want to do is to, before we format, let me try to just repeat this process again. Let me try to repeat this process again for us. Let me change the color of 2018 and pick a color that's okay, good. So basically, what I did was that I changed the color for the 2018 line and then took off all the other years just so it can tally with. If you are trying to build this, you can use either of these two colors, either the deeper shade of green or the lighter shade of green. Now, for this, we want to keep this as tidy as we can. So let's go ahead and make a few more formattings. Now, legends are only necessary when you are comparing more than one column. For this, there is no comparison. We are just showing the sales. We are showing the sales that were made in 2018. So I'm going to take off the legend. Why? Because I'm trying to save space on my chart. Now, the next thing I'm going to try to do is with the data labels. I see everything is looking a little clumsy in there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to adjust the position. Now, for the position in a line chart, you can either be to, above, or under. So I'm going to set it to be above and then come here to make adjustments to the values. I'll make adjustments to the values just for the sake of visibility. Just for the sake of visibility. The display unit has been set to thousands. Let me reduce the decimal places. Good. Now we have, can somebody tell me what we still have not changed in this chart? What do we still need to change on this chart?
The title.
Okay, yes, we need to change the title. Now for the line chart, you can also add what we call so I'm just going to go ahead, come here and say title. So the question we're trying to answer here is months by sales in 2018. Now, mind you, just like our Excel, Power BI is also interactive. Power BI is also interactive. Now, when you click on this, when you click on your charts, when you move your pointer across it, this that you are seeing is called the tooltip. It's called the tooltip. Now you can see that the tooltip is giving you more details about the tooltip is giving us more details about the particularly selected visual. To check or to edit your tooltip, you do that from the visualizations pane. You do that from the visualizations pane. As you can see, if I wanted these tooltips now to be showing, say, the years, I'll just come in here and add years to the tooltip as well. Let's say I wanted it to be showing so whenever I come here, it's now showing the based on the criteria that I added here. Now, let's say I wanted it to be showing for a particular sales team as well. I can come here, set the visual for what I want it to show. And that would also reflect. So that's the essence of the tooltip for more details on the chart. Now, can somebody help me with the next question? What's the next question? At the very least, I want us to complete this page today. What's the next
Manager by
question, please?
sales. Manager
Manager
by
by
sales.
sales. Okay, manager by sales. Did I say manager by sales or manager by sales in a particular year?
In 2018.
Okay, good. Now, so I'm going to go ahead, copy this, paste this here. Okay, so now we want the manager by sales in 2018. This is still relevant, so all I'm going to do is take out the month and now include the manager. Good. So now we have the sales that each of the managers made in 2018. We have now, whenever you're using line charts, it is to save your space, to save your on your charts. It's always better to take out the sub values on the y-axis. So for this, I'm going to come to the y-axis and turn off the values so it can save me space. I already have the values reflecting using data labels. I can do the same for the months by sales as well. Now, for this page, let's quickly insert slicers before we go to the next page. Now, in Microsoft Power BI, slicers are also visuals. This is the slicer visual. So if I click on the slicer visual, it would ask me to then select or drag a field into the visual. So I'm going to go on and say, now we are going to be selecting 4 slicers. We're going to be selecting 4 slicers. We are going to have a slicer for channels, slicer for sales team, slicer for sub-channel, and slicers for year. So the first that I'm going to select is channel.
All right, before you go on, you haven't changed the chart title for the manager by sales in 2018.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, Adeyemi. Thank you for calling my attention to that. So I'm just going to do that here and say, instead of months, I'll go manager by sales in 2018. So thank you for that, Adeyemi. So for the slicer, I'm going to start by selecting channel. Now, if I may ask, when we use slicers in our Excel visualization, I think somebody mentioned it yesterday, but just to be sure, what did we use slicers for when we visualized in Excel? What did we use slicers for?
Slicers are used for interactions. They are used to filter through a data point.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Did you get that?
Now,
Yeah.
yes, I did. I got that. Now, we use slicers for what I would describe as advanced or interactive filtering. Now, the way I've inserted channels now, before we start to format the channels page. Now, if I want everything that is on this page now to show just for hospital, can you see that the values immediately changed when I selected hospital? Now, that is a sort of advanced filtering. If I come here and select pharmacy too, you will see that the values will change in relation to the selected value, which is pharmacy here. But mind you, we still have to make some formatting here. Power BI as well. And then slicer settings. Now, in Power BI, unlike Excel, we have a variety of slicer types, or should I say slicer styles. Now, this that we have on the screen is the vertical list slicer. What does the vertical list slicer do? It will list out your slicers in a vertical format, that is from up to down. You have them here. Secondly, we have the tile slicer. Now, what does the tile slicer do? The tile slicer will list out the values, the distinct values in the selected column in a tile format. Can you see? These two have now become tiles here. The last one is the drop-down slicer. Is somebody trying to say something? Okay. So Adeyemi was trying to say something. Now, for the sake of what we are doing,
Yes, I
you'd see
wanted
that.
to mention that.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to take the permission to step out. I have some other engagements right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry
Please
about
do.
that.
Ensure to catch up. Ensure to catch up with the remainder of the video when it is uploaded.
Oh, thank you. I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now, lastly, we have the drop down. Now, the drop down, instead of listing the values, it will put everything in a drop down, such as that for us to access those values, we will have to collapse or expand the drop down. Do we understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, so for that, I'm going to just go back and select a vertical list. That is, those are the type of slicers we have. Now, for the slicer header, the slicer header will basically be the name of the column you are selecting from, which in this case is channel. So you can decide to make it bold. You can decide to change the color, whatever formatting you want to perform on it. You can also even decide to change the font type. I'm going to try to stick to the font type that I've been using since. And okay, now, if you notice, you will see that the you will notice that the slicer has a white background. You will notice that the slicer has a white background. Now, while the channel is showing the title, this hospital and pharmacy, they are the values. So you can also format them, change the type, the font type, adjust the font size. You can decide to make it bold. You can, you can also change the font color. You can decide if you want to insert borders. But for the sake of this, I'm going to, you can also decide if you want to insert a background for the values. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it the way it is. Now this is for the values. If I want to take off the background, I have to come to general and change effects. You see the background is color white. I'm going to change that and turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Now, I can now go ahead to insert the other slicers. I can go ahead to insert the other slicers. I said we'll be inserting slicers for the channel. You just copy and paste. We can insert borders around the slicers just in case. We can insert a border around it. Come to general effects and we can turn on a visual border. Set the roundedness and let's go 5. Now you see that that will take effect right around the slicer. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and duplicate this again. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V. I'll go ahead and now for the second slicer, we're going to be using the sales team. So I just take out the channel and include the sales team. All I have to do is expand the slicer and I'll have a list of all the sales teams. The third slicer we'll be using is for the sub-channel, So just to be sure we are still together, I'm going to call on someone and they are the person I call on is the one that's going to tell me how I'm going to do. So is Oluwadamilola, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Now, say I want to change this drop down now. I want to change this to show sub-channels. What do I do? And I also want to change the slicer type. Where do I go?
First of all, you tick off. Okay, you change. You go to. Okay, the visuals.
Okay.
The middle. What do you call it? Button.
Icon.
That.
Okay.
Yes. And then slicer setting.
Okay, good. Okay.
Then
Now, say I want to
the
use a tile now. I can change it from here.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
which is very good.
Then the heading.
Okay, okay, great. Now, when you use a tile, are we together? When we use a tile, you can decide to take out the borders that surround the tiles by coming to border and turning everything off. But it would not be a tile if there were no, should I say, borders. So most times you can just be creative with it and go ahead and. So are we still together? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So thank you for helping with that, Oladamilola. Now, the last slicer is going to be the slicer for years. It's going to be the slicer for years. And for this, we are going to be using a drop down. We're going to be using a drop down. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and take out sales team, select year, and change the slicer type to a drop down. Okay, good. Now we are still trying to cook up this page. From here on, we now see that we already have our first page populated. Let's see how far we can go in the space of. Now, we want these KPIs to be on the next page. How do we get them on there? Now, we can do it two ways. Number one, we can copy and paste all these KPIs. We can select them, holding control. If you want to do multiple selections, you just hold control and select the elements you are trying to copy and paste. You see, I'm holding control while selecting all of them. Okay. I'm going to do the same for, I've selected all of them here. Let me also try to copy and move the slicers as well. So I'll copy, Control C, come to the second page, and then paste, Control V, Control. Now you see that just like similarly. Or the second way to go about it is to duplicate the first page and then go ahead and delete just the visuals. So these are the two ways to automate the process of using your KPIs or your slicers on other pages of your visuals rather than going over it again. So I'm just going to delete this because I wanted to show us the two ways to go about that. Now, this will bring us to another important feature of Power BI, which is page navigation. But before we get there, let's try to answer a few more questions. So I think the fifth question, can somebody help me with the fifth question, please? Oladamola Shade, please help me with the fifth question.
The next question.
Yes, please.
Sum of quantity by each sale team in 2020.
Okay. Sum of quantity by each sales team in 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we are going to be needing, now let me just go ahead and copy one of these charts. We need sum of quantity by sales team and the year. So I'm going to go ahead and Control C and Control. Let me copy it and then come and paste it here. Okay, good. So let me bring it right up here. So once we find the sum of quantity, so I'm going to take out manager. The columns that we need here will be sales team, quantity, and year. Sales team, quantity, and year. So we need to go ahead, check the filter. Now, what is the year? The year is the year 2020 or 2019?
2020.
Okay, so we're going to change that from the filter and change the year to be 2020. We're going to change the year to be 2020. We're going to go ahead and on this page, we're going to go to try to change the color for the year 2020. So I selected series, that is the line. You can also change the line type. It doesn't have to be a solid line. It could be a dashed line. As you can see, that has changed. But let me firstly go ahead and change the color before I come back here. So let me use this darker shade of gray. Then let me go and filter out the year to show just 2020. Okay, great. Now I've changed the color. You can also change the line type. It doesn't have to be a solid line. It doesn't have to be a, you can change the line to be whatever style you want it to be. But for this, I'd like to just keep this line. You can also change you can change, as you can see, these are other formatting types that one can explore. This is the interpolation type, that is the sort of progression that the line has. So we'll keep this. Let's go ahead to format the values in our data labels. And the first thing I want to do is to increase the decimal place. Now we are seeing the actual amount that they need for each of them. We'll maintain the font type and we see.
Sorry.
Yeah, do you want to ask a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I want to say something. So,
Okay, please.
yesterday when you were like saying the questions, I was
Yes.
actually typing it and I wrote sum of quantity by each sales team in 2020. But what was posted on the group was sum of quantity by each sales team. So,
Oh, okay. I think that should be adjusted. That should be adjusted. Thank you for that observation. It's supposed to be in 2020. So the next thing I'm going to do here is to change the title and call it quantity sold by sales team in 2020. So there goes the fifth question. So do we have any question based off of what we've done today? Because tomorrow we'll be completing this report. We'll be populating it, adding our insights and recommendations, going through page navigation, and also inserting icons for page navigation. So do you have any questions based on today's teaching? Please, if there's any question or anything you'd want me to just clarify upon before we call it a night. Paul, no question. Yetunde, Anna, no question. All right, can you guys hear me?
No question. Although
Okay.
I came to the class a little bit late, but from what I can see, from what you've taught, yeah, I could understand. I understand what you've taught so far. But I came into the class late, so I have to go back to the recordings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please. The recording will be very, very helpful for those who came late. So thank you very much for joining in. And I'd like us to end the class a few minutes before 8 p.m. if you don't mind. So to save your reports, to save the changes that you make, before you close the document, just press Ctrl S, and you'll see that your last saved time will change. And you see last saved today at the time, which is 7:58 p.m. currently. So please, guys, what I'd like us to do is to continue with this on our end. The essence of this class is that it becomes practical. What we learn in class, that we go ahead to practice it on our own. So we'll be able to share our works. Like I said, this week we are taking on the basic parts. We'll be building 2 reports in this, and this will be the first of the 2 reports. So tomorrow we'll kick off on time, God willing. So thank you very much. Since you have no questions for me, we'll bring the class to a close now. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow in class. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for today's class.
Yeah, thank you.